Hey everyone, Grandmaster Ben Finegold here with the daily video. Um, well, this is February 28th, and March 28th is the start of the U.S. Championship. And I was thinking about that. You guys were thinking Arby's, but that's the kind of people you are. Um, and so I was thinking, oh, U.S. Championship. Let's go back in the day and look at some of my better games. But I couldn't find any because I lost all of them. Then I found one that I won. So my first U.S. championship was in 1994 in Key West, Florida. My second U.S. championship was 5 years later, 1999, in Salt Lake City, Utah. And since those events, I haven't been back to those towns, but I like both of them. Okay, so in Salt Lake City, I won one game out of seven, and they had a 8-player round robins. There were two of them, so we played 7 games, and the top two from each round robin played some playoffs. Anyway, the U.S. championships that I played in '94 and '99 were both won by Boris Golko. So Golko liked when I showed up. I did not come in the top two. I think out of the 8 players, I came in the top 8, but I'm not even sure of that. Okay, in the penultimate round, round 6, I played Nick Firmian, who's won the U.S. championship a few times, either 3 or 4. And I have a good score against Nick. I'm not sure why exactly, but we've played 4 times in rated chess, and I have 2 wins and 2 draws. And one of our draws was a last round 10 mover. So, okay, so I'm white. I played d4, and he plays the King's Indian and the Benoni, and he's so good at chess that he played them both. Bam! So he played c5 and then g6. So I don't know if this is a King's Indian or a Benoni, but you can write something silly in the comments, and I'll delete it. I mean, I'll leave it there. That's what you think. Okay, so I've had this position many times. In fact, I've had it with black also, but I've had it mainly with white. And the reason I play h3 is I don't like in the Benoni when they play bishop g4 and trade off their bishop. So I usually play h3 before knight f3 in these Benoni positions. Okay, so e6. And normally they take on d5 here, and actually I've taken both directions. After e takes d5, I have many games in the database with ed, and I also play cd. So I actually don't know which one I would have played. But he played knight a6, which I might have faced once before. Okay, and I castled, and he played knight c7. Well, problem with black's position is he's pretty passive. So, white has a nice advantage here. Probably the computer likes it more than a human would. Computers like space. Okay, so I played rook e1, and he played e5. And that's an unusual move because he's basically down a tempo in an opening that's not considered very good for black, playing e5 and c5. And I should know because I play e5 and c5. This is funny. I remember many, many years ago wondering what theory was of this position. And so I looked it up. And I went to reference, and I looked at some of the top games. And it said, players who play this with white. And it said Finegold. And I was like, Finegold? And then I looked, and it was a game that I won in 1989 when I was in Belgium. And actually, that was the last round of a tournament where I got my final IM norm, or so I thought. In a round robin, it became an IM, although it turned out I had already become an IM, but that's another story for another video. And I wrote an article about that game for Chess Life, annotating the game in full, and it was from this position. So that's pretty funny that the highest rated player to have white in this position heretofore was me. And it was a game that I annotated that I remember fondly. You see how fondly I remember it? Okay, but that was 10 years before this game. And this game was played in '99, and you weren't even born then, so you can't blame me. Okay, so if you saw my game with Mamedyarov from last week, you'll remember in a similar pawn structure that Mamedyarov played a3, b4, which was a good idea. So I played rook b1 with the same idea. I want to play b4. And he played knight to d7, which is a very bad move. And the reason it's a bad move is because the idea that it has is unplayable due to his move. He actually stopped his own idea. Well, black's either going to play for b5 or f5, or both. And when he played knight c7, you would assume he's going to play, rook b8, a6, b5. But since I'm already ready to play b4, I guess he decided he'll play on the king side. So he wants to play the move f5, but the move knight d7 is a mistake because he blocks his bishop on c8. And that's a problem that most of you at home have. You have your idea, and your opponent has their ideas, and it's a battle to see which idea is worse. And you guys are like, my idea is worse. No, my idea is worse. And then I have to come in and say, look, you're both just terrible. Okay, so instead of me playing for my idea with a3, b4, and him playing for his idea with f5, I just played queen c2, which I did without saying it because the computer did it. The computer's pretty smart. And now I have a lot of guys on f5, so if you play f5, I'm going to win a pawn. And the reason is your bishop on c8 isn't defending f5 anymore. So when my opponent wanted to play f5, I stopped it by playing queen c2. And yeah, it's hard to play f5 now. Okay, so he did a rigmarole. If you look in the dictionary under rigmarole, you will find what Black did here. He doubled on the f file and then played f5, which is very funny, except he didn't play f5. Okay, so he played f6, never play f6, a3, rook f7, b4, queen f8. It all makes sense. I played a3, b4, and he put his queen and rook on the f file so he could play f5. Okay, and I played bishop d2, and I said, I dare you to play f5, because then I'll have g5 square available for my knight and the e6 square, and I'm not afraid of f5 anyway. Okay, so he did something that you'll see some King's Indian Benoni players do. He played bishop h6, because his bishop is behind his wall of pawns, so you might as well trade that off. Okay, now I made the move in the game I was proudest of. I got an advantage in the center. I have more space. I have an advantage on the queen's side. So now we're going to Karpov it up, and we're going to get an advantage on the king's side. And in 1993, and a little bit of 92 and a little bit of 94. Actually, no, it was 93, 94, and a little bit of 95. I got the Sanford Fellowship in 93, and I was working with Kaidanov. And one of the games we looked at a lot, which you can find on the Chess Club and Classic Center of St. Louis's YouTube page, it's one of my most watched videos. It's a game Karpov beat Kamsky, which I believe was played in 1990, but I could be a year or two off. Could have been 92. And Karpov won on one side of the board, then the other side, then the other side, and there were like 10 sides of the board when Karpov was playing. So since I've won in the center on the queen side, I might as well win on the king side. So I played the move rook f1. And eventually I'm going to play f4. Eventually. I may die of old age by then, but I'm still alive. Okay, he played b6, just chilling out. And I played the move knight d1 because I like my knight on e3. That seems reasonable. And he traded. And now when I take with the knight, I'm ready to play f4. See, I told you I could do it. He played knight to e8. And I played knight e3, stopping f5 even more. Who would have thought I could stop it even more? And he played queen e7, which doesn't do anything. And I played g3 with the obvious idea to play f4 at some point. Knight g7, fianchettoing his knight. And I played king g2, which defends my h3 pawn. Played h5. And I played rook to e1, because if I want to play f4, I would like my rook and his queen lined up. Now, a5 is a committal move. It forces one of us to do something. I didn't want to give him the a file if I was going to play on the king side. So I played b5 and just blocked it up. And now I remember analyzing this game with a lot of the players from the tournament, because I beat Nick so badly. They'd never seen Nick get beat like this. Nick is always playing for tricks. So when Nick loses, he usually goes down in flames, where it's really tricky and something happened. This game, he didn't do anything. As you can see, all of Black's pieces are on the first and second rank, which isn't Nick de Firmian style. And they thought after b5, Nick should run over to the queen side, because the queen side's totally blocked. That would be an interesting plan. Okay, instead, Nick played knight f8, which finally his bishop on c8 is open, and I played f4. So I have more space everywhere, king side, queen side, center. It's not really clear how I'm going to win, but my pieces are more active and his pieces are trapped. And I don't know if he's losing here. I'm sure Magnus Carlsen would really like to have white here. But after the next move, I'm sure he's losing because he gives too much away. Again, he doesn't want to get smushed, and he probably, playing a player of my caliber, doesn't even want to draw. He's, even with a bad position like this, he probably wants to win. So he took on f4. And that makes the game more double-edged and tricky, but it's basically just bad for him. Now my pawn center is really strong. Played rook a7, tripling on the 7th rank. I guess that's the wrong 7th rank. And you'll notice the g file is open for me, so probably my king shouldn't be there. I think rook's gone open files. So I played king to h2, so that I would have the g file for my rook and my king wouldn't be on it. He played queen e8, I assume to move his rook over, which is what he did. Knight f3, and he moved his rook over. Okay, and I played queen g2 on the half-open file. And once again, he did something active instead of waiting around. Most grandmasters, and the stronger they are, the more they do this, they don't like to wait around to lose. If they have no counterplay, they find counterplay. And unfortunately, the counterplay didn't work for him because all his pieces are so badly placed. So he has to just wait here and eventually lose, but maybe I would blunder and he wouldn't eventually lose. So he played f5, which is another mistake. So both of his mistakes were pawn moves. He took on f4, he played f5, and he let me advance in the center. Okay, so if you have a camera, get it out. Get a picture of this position. It looks really nice. Okay, he traded. Also wasn't very good, I don't think. And now got his counterplay with f4. Yay, he threatened something. But I saw it. Knight d1. Okay, bishop f5. So is this the first time in the game he's had a piece on the 4th rank? So c7, carry the 1. Oh no, he played bishop takes d2 on move 17 and traded bishops. So I don't know, he was trading bishops though. So this is the first time he put something on the 4th rank or above without just taking one of my pieces and I would take back. Okay, so I played knight f2, defending my bishop. Seemed like a good idea. He played knight h7, quadrupling on the 7th rank. Rook to g1. Knight f8, defending his g-pawn after moving his knight from f8. e6, rook f6 is forced, obviously. I took. Yeah, all the ways of taking are bad. I guess if he takes with the knight, knight e4 would win his rook, right? I don't see where his rook can go. Knight takes, knight e4. That seems like that's not good for him. Okay, so he took with the rook. I attacked his rook and his g-pawn. And this is actually funny. Unless you're Nick, then it's not too funny. He played queen b8, and I remember when I showed this game to the other players in the tournament who wanted to see it, they said, oh, he plays for check. And check he did get. I took the rook. I took on g6. I'm looking at this score, and I still can't read the moves correctly. Okay, I took on g6, which is even better than taking the rook. He did play for check. For those of you who are confused, which is about 40% of you, I'm in check now. Notice the queen on b8, which is really far away, is checking my king. And my queen is attacked. So most of you would resign here. But now this is a funny thing for those of you who are into the rules. Okay, let's imagine you didn't know you were in check. Then you would very likely play knight takes e7 check. And then when your opponent moves his king, you would play queen takes knight mate. So if you played knight takes rook check in a tournament game, and the arbiter would come over and say you're in check, you're now required to move your knight because you touched your knight. And you could either go to e5 or f4 with the same results, your opponent taking your queen. Man, the touch move rule is tough. Okay, so I saw I was in check, and I played queen g3. His queen's hanging, his rook's hanging, so he traded queens. He traded knights. And this is an ending where I'm up a pawn, and I have 2 connected passed pawns on the 5th and 6th. And after king h7, this was move 40, so I could think forever and figure out the easiest way to win. Every move wins, but I won the quickest way. I took the knight, and if he takes with the rook, that's good for white, because I'm going to win one of his rooks for my pawn. So he has to take with the king. I played d6. Obviously, the pawns are going to win a rook, but I got luckier than that. If black wants to lose a rook for the pawn, the best way to do it is the way he did it, which is king f6. Now, if I take his rook, he takes with the king, and my e-pawn's probably going to be lost, and he's still losing, but the game goes on. Instead, I played a better move, better than taking a rook. Well, I can't take a queen, because there's no queens on the board. So there's 3 things that are better than taking a rook. and that is taking a queen, checkmating your opponent, and the third one, which I did, which is to promote a pawn to a queen. I played d7. And as Joel Benjamin would say, it's a girl. So that pawn's going to promote, and it's over. So Nick resigned. Not a good game from Nick. One of the better games I've played in the U.S. Championship. And, well, sometimes when you're white and your opponent plays passively and doesn't find a good plan, then these kinds of games can happen. So it took me a long time to find a game that I could show you from a U.S. Championship where I didn't get crushed, but I found one. And that was in 1999, before many of you were born. And let's see, it was in August, so this was 1 week before my 30th birthday. Solid. All right, I hope you enjoyed that game. Like and subscribe. I only have 2,700 subscribers. I'd like to have at least 8,000 before the year ends. So tell your friends, tell your enemies, tell your frenemies, tell your friends' friends, tell your children, tell your children's children, and let's get some subscribers to my YouTube page. Please go to my Facebook and Twitter page, CCSCA, the Chess Club and Scholastic Center of Atlanta. Follow me on Twitter. As I like to say, don't follow me in real life unless you're bringing a bag of money. And please donate at aclchessclub.com. I got no donations yesterday, and I had to buy Kleenex because I was crying so much. I got one donation today. And for those of you who aren't very good at math, which is most of you, 1 is more than 0, although I prefer 3 per day. All right, thanks a lot, guys. aclchessclub.com. See you next time. Bye, everyone.